I was weeks away from giving up. My dream of retiring abroad felt impossible. Too expensive, too risky, too late. I had no big pension, no overflowing savings account. Just a quiet voice inside me that said, "There's more out there for you." But dreams don't pay rent. And every time I looked at my bank account, it felt like that dream was slipping away. Then something shifted. Not a raise, not a lottery ticket. Just one simple change to how I managed my budget. And it changed everything. Today, I'm living that dream. Retired in a peaceful town abroad, spending less than I did back home, and feeling more free than I've felt in decades. In this video, I'm going to show you the exact mindset shift and budget trick that helped me go from barely getting by to building a life I love overseas. Let's dive in. This might just change everything for you, too. The dream that felt out of reach. Like a lot of people in their 60-second, I didn't grow up dreaming about retiring abroad. That idea came later, after years of working, raising kids, making ends meet, and putting everyone else first. One day, I saw a photo of a quiet town by the ocean, not flashy, just peaceful. And I thought, what if? What if I could wake up somewhere warm, sip coffee in the sunlight, and finally slow down, without worrying about bills or traffic or stress? But when I looked at the numbers, it didn't add up. Flights, visas, healthcare, housing, and I still had normal expenses piling up at home. It felt like the dream was always just out of reach, close enough to imagine, but not close enough to touch. So I did what a lot of us do. I told myself, maybe someday, and quietly started giving up on the idea. But that dream never left. It kept tapping me on the shoulder, reminding me that there might be a way if I could just figure out how. That's where the real journey began, not overseas, but inside my bank account. Because I didn't need more money, I just needed to see it differently. Where my money was actually going. For years, I told myself I didn't have enough money to retire, let alone move to another country. But then, one evening, I sat down with nothing but a notebook and a pencil, and I wrote down every single thing I'd spent money on that month. It wasn't fancy. It wasn't even a proper budget. It was just the truth, in black and white. And what I saw surprised me. It wasn't that I was reckless. I wasn't taking luxury trips or buying designer clothes. But the little things, they were everywhere. Streaming services I didn't use. A gym I hadn't stepped into for months. Takeout, impulse groceries, late-night Amazon scrolls. It was all so automatic. I wasn't overspending because I didn't care. I was overspending because I wasn't paying attention. And that was the wake-up call. I didn't need more income. I needed to redirect what I already had toward the life I actually wanted. It was like I'd been pouring water into a bucket with holes. And this was the moment I finally saw them. The good news? I also realized I had more control than I thought. Next, I'll tell you about the trick that changed everything. And it's probably not what you expect. The trick. Categorize by emotion, not just numbers. I'd tried budgets before. Lists, spreadsheets, apps, you name it. And every time, I quit. Not because I didn't want to manage my money, but because it always felt like punishment. A budget told me what I couldn't do, what I had to cut, where I'd already failed. But this time, I tried something different. I looked at each expense, and instead of asking, "How much did this cost?" I asked, "How did this make me feel?" Not just in the moment, but after. Was it joyful, useful, peaceful, or was it stressful, forgettable, or just automatic? And that changed everything. I wasn't just tracking dollars. I was tracking value. I kept the coffee dates that brought connection. I cut the background subscriptions I didn't even notice. I made space for things that supported my dream, like a language app or saving for that first scouting trip. The trick wasn't cutting more, it was choosing better. That emotional filter turned budgeting into something powerful. Not a spreadsheet, but a mirror. a way to see if my spending lined up with the life I said I wanted. And for the first time, it did. The ripple effect. Once I started budgeting this new way, emotionally, not just numerically, something unexpected happened. It wasn't just about money anymore. It was about momentum. Suddenly, I wasn't dreading cutting back. I was excited to make room for the things that actually mattered. Every time I skipped a mindless purchase, I felt more in control. Every time I saved a little extra, I felt closer to that dream. And that energy started spilling into other areas of my life. I decluttered my home, not just to simplify, but to sell things I didn't need. I started walking more, eating out less, and feeling better in my body. I stopped avoiding my bank account and started checking in like it was a partner in my plan. Even my relationships shifted. Because when I stopped spending out of boredom or guilt, I started spending with intention, and people noticed. The money didn't multiply overnight, but my confidence did. And that was worth more than any dollar amount. All of a sudden, retiring abroad didn't feel like a fantasy anymore. It felt like a plan, planning the move, with confidence. Before the budget shift, moving abroad felt like a wild idea. A maybe someday kind of dream I'd scroll past in blogs and YouTube videos. But once I had clarity and control over my spending, the fog started to lift. I wasn't guessing anymore, I was deciding. I created a folder. I started comparing countries, cost of living, visa rules, healthcare access. I joined expat forums, watched videos, and emailed people already living the life I imagined. And here's the thing. The more I researched, the more I realized. I didn't need a fortune. I just needed a clear plan. I used my new budget system to set aside a small travel fund and booked a short scouting trip. Nothing fancy. But that visit changed everything. I walked through local markets. I tested the buses. I talked to real people, not real estate agents. And I asked myself, honestly, could I see myself living here? Not just visiting, but actually living. And for the first time, the answer was yes. Not because I had piles of money, but because I had clarity. The kind of clarity that turns dreams into decisions. Let's move into the next chapter, because arriving is only part of the story. What comes next is how you build a life abroad, not just afford one. Retiring abroad on purpose, not panic. A lot of people move abroad because they feel like they're running out of options. Too many bills, not enough savings, no way to make retirement work back home. And I understand that, I really do, but I didn't want to move out of panic. I wanted to move with purpose. That budget shift gave me exactly that. It helped me define what I actually wanted in this next chapter, not just what I was trying to escape. I didn't chase luxury. I chased peace. I chose a place where I could walk to the market, where healthcare was affordable, where I didn't need a car, or a giant house, or a closet full of stuff. Instead of recreating my old life on foreign soil, I built a simpler one, on purpose. And it worked. Because it was based on what mattered to me, not what I used to spend money on out of habit. Now, my days are quieter. My budget is smaller. But my life feels fuller. Not because I moved away, but because I finally moved into a life that reflected what I truly value, what I'd do differently, and what I'd do again. No move, especially across borders, is perfect. And retiring abroad, as rewarding as it's been, came with a few surprises. If I had to do it again, I'd spend more time researching visa timelines and health insurance options. Some of the paperwork took longer than I expected, and figuring out how to access care or refill prescriptions felt confusing at first. I'd also be more realistic about how often I'd want to fly home. It's easy to focus on cheap living abroad, but those plane tickets back to visit family? They add up fast. But you know what I'd absolutely do again? That budget shift. That one choice, to budget based on value, not just numbers, is what made everything else possible. It gave me the margin to explore, the space to dream again, the clarity to move forward without fear. So if you're watching this and wondering, can I really do something like this? The answer isn't just about geography. It starts with how you spend your money today, and whether your current budget reflects your future or just your past. Let's wrap this up with one final thought. Because this isn't just about moving abroad. It's about rewriting the story you tell yourself about what's still possible. So here's what I want you to remember. It wasn't a raise. It wasn't a windfall. It wasn't even a new job that made retirement abroad possible for me. It was a budget. But not just any budget. One that aligned with who I was becoming, not who I used to be. I stopped tracking every dollar out of fear and started tracking based on what actually brought me peace, joy, and purpose. And from there, everything changed. You don't need to wait for the perfect moment. You don't need a big inheritance or a miracle. You just need to start where you are and be willing to see your money and your future differently. If this story gave you a new idea or sparked something inside you, I'd love to hear it. Leave a comment below and tell me, what's one expense you're ready to let go of, or one dream you're ready to make room for? And if you haven't already, hit like, subscribe, and tap the bell so you don't miss the next video. Retirement abroad doesn't have to be a fantasy. It can be your reality, one choice at a time. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.